You ready? Let's do it.
This is Dr. Mo, and today we're thrilled to have with us a leader who has been in corporate relations and philanthropy with the American Cancer Society. She joined the American Cancer Society in 2018 as a corporate relations director, where she built and maintained connections with approximately 50 major corporations in Oklahoma. By 2019, she took on the role of Senior Director of Corporate Relations and Philanthropy, expanding her portfolio to include major donors and foundations across Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Arizona. Among her impressive achievements, she led and closed a $16.5 million, let us sink in, capital campaign for the ACS Church, which is in Hope Lodge in Oklahoma, navigating the challenges of a pandemic to make this ambitious goal a reality. She comes with a wealth of experience in donor retention, growth strategies, and nonprofit work, including roles at Project Cure and the Neurotherapy Foundation. She has really proven herself to be a force in philanthropy. Her background is also enriched by her time as a global services manager in investment management, her founding of the student organization for fair trade at the University of Oklahoma, and her leadership roles within organizations like the Rotary 29 and Women Lead Oklahoma. Outside of her professional life, she's an avid reader, snowboarder, traveler, and enjoys spending time outdoors with her son. Join me in welcoming Miss Michelle Fair to the show. We're so excited to learn from her experiences today. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, Dr. Mo. Thank you so much for that beautiful and very almost embarrassing introduction. I appreciate it, and I'm excited to spend some time here with you today. Thank you.
Oh, no. When I met you, I was like, she has to come on the show. She has to come on the show. You're such a force to reckon with, and yes, women doing great things. We love that. We love that. So it seems like maybe you're an Okie person as far as growing up in Oklahoma, because I didn't know that, but I would love to just hear about you. Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing and early life experiences?
Yes, thank you. That's funny. I get guessed that I'm from all over the country. So I was actually born in Oklahoma.
I did not know that.
I was born in Oklahoma. I'm the oldest of 5 kids. When we were about 10, my father's business moved us elsewhere. So I ended up spending from 10 to graduation in Evergreen, Colorado, which is at the top of an 8,000-foot mountain. So it was a big change from Oklahoma City. I remember moving there, and the kids in 5th grade were like, "Oh, are there really cowboys and Indians? Do you guys have electricity?" It was just a bit of a
yes, I know.
Right? The perceptions are always interesting. And then finished my high school in Evergreen. Decided I wasn't quite ready for college, so I took this route. I was a competitive snowboarder for a little while, did a little bit of traveling, got some experiences under my belt, and then returned to Oklahoma to work on my bachelor's in international relations and area studies. My class was actually the first graduating class of international relations from the University of Oklahoma.
Congrats.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I finished that out by living abroad for about a year in France and then traveling extensively after that, and then came back stateside to pursue my master's in international security and development at the University of Denver, and completed that in 2008, which was not the best time to finish a degree, but that's okay.
Oh, recession, right?
Yes, the recession, which it made for an interesting trajectory for work. But that was kind of my upbringing, a really big, loud, fun family. So I think that's played a lot in my growth and my development as well as my family.
Oh, great. I love to hear all of that. So, parlez-vous français?
Oui, je parle français un peu.
Ooh, c'est bon, c'est très bon. So you've come from a family of 5 kids. What's your position? Are you the first or the last?
I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest, which I think, the type A personality and the leadership.
Same here. I can relate.
Okay, so you know.
I'm the oldest. Yeah, I have 2 brothers. And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. The 3 youngest still live in Oklahoma. They've all made their way back to Oklahoma. And then the other brother, we're almost like 2 different generations. He actually lives in Australia. So.
Oh, wow. Yes. Wow. What an international family. Right? So you've been, so you started from Oklahoma, moved to Denver, and then France, and then you came back to Oklahoma. What was the biggest change you've noticed since the time you grew up in Oklahoma and now?
Ooh, that's a good question. I've ping-ponged back and forth between Oklahoma a few times, actually. And I would say this most recent time when I returned after being gone for nearly 15 years, moved back in 2017, just really noticing a bit of a cultural shift and growth in Oklahoma City from where it went to kind of that oil town feel to having that diverse, diverse economy, diverse food scene, more actual culture. Of course, I had a professional sports team in the Thunder, so I think that made a big difference. And just seeing it really, really kind of grow and blossom into a more urban community rather than just the kind of the oil town feel.
That I used to have, yeah. So I'm Nigerian by birth, and I moved to the U.S. about 13 years ago. I started in Austin, Texas. My work and my husband's work has taken us to Boston, to New Mexico, and then now to Oklahoma. And people always ask, why are you in Oklahoma? And I'm like, why not Oklahoma? Right?
Right.
I won't lie to you. Initially, it was a bit of a struggle, just adapting to the slower pace. I feel like Oklahoma right now, and when I say Oklahoma, I'm talking about Oklahoma City and Edmond, okay? Because those are the only two axes I'm very familiar with. It feels to me what Austin used to be like 13 years ago when I just moved into it, right? It's growing. The people, I mean, you're getting a lot more diverse people, and the cuisine also is also growing. But I'm curious to know, what makes Oklahoma to you very unique?
Oklahoma, to me, what makes Oklahoma unique? I mean, honestly, it might sound cliche, but it really is the people. It's
right.
It's the people. I read this. I do a lot of reading of international news as well, and everybody knows Canadians is like being super nice. Well, the Canadians voted Oklahomans is the nicest Americans. So
I didn't know that.
yeah, and it's true. I mean, everyone is always so nice, goes out of their way to help you. I mean, always does the hi when you drive by and smiles.
I know.
Because living in other places, we take it for granted in Oklahoma. We think everybody's like that. They are not. They are not at all.
Yeah. I remember one time I was trying to do like a 3-point turn, and I was just so worried that the car behind me, but it just waited, until I did it. And one time somebody honked at me, and I felt really, really like I wanted to cry, because I'm like, that is not Oklahoma. That person is not from here,
Very much so. Yes, it even threw me off my driving game when you'd be at a 4-way stop and people are like, "Oh, go ahead." And
you got it, honey. Yeah, take your time.
It's like, okay. So yes, the people and the kindness and the welcoming spirit and the patience really, I think, sets Oklahoma apart from anywhere else that I've been.
So true. When I started working here, I think I had to call IT for like troubleshooting my computer, and it was a lady that picked up the phone. I was more in a hurry to just get her out of the phone. She's like, no, honey, just take your time. We're going to get this done. And she stayed with me until I fixed every bulb and bit. I'm like, well, I'm from Texas. We want to do things in a hurried way. Thanks for that jug in history.
Yes.
So we know what you are doing right now, which is amazing, by the way. And we're going to balloon that out. But I'm always curious to know, if you could cast your mind back to how you grew up, what would you say were some of the incidents or opportunities you had as a kid that will have really sparked your interest in what you do now in international business and your work in philanthropy as well?
Yes, because I did kind of do that mid crazy shift from the corporate arena and international relations and international finance to nonprofit. So that's a whole story in itself. But I would say, formulative wise, my family's always been pretty, again, big, loud family and very welcoming of others, and they always encouraged, I guess, my curiosity about the unknown and what is different. And I was taught that it was something to be curious about and learn about rather than fear. Fear of the unknown is it's very common, right? It's in the human psyche. So being able to grow up in an environment that taught me to embrace the unknown and be curious to learn about it rather than be afraid of it, I think really helped lay that groundwork and that foundation for the passion and of the international relations component. I've always loved people. I love food. I love other people's food and music. So learning through other cultures through that has always been really fun and exciting for me. And then I thought I was, I thought I was going to be a molecular biologist until I started doing that and saw the math requirements, and I was like, yeah, no, maybe not so much for me. And plus, in my mind, I would have been in a lab, and I'm definitely too much of an extrovert to do that. And then more around the groundwork of the philanthropic side was my grandma always was very engaged and involved with nonprofits and the community and helping serve, others and those that had less than us. And so her leading by example and showing me how important that is and how much of a difference even one person can make. I know sometimes we think our voices aren't heard and we're just one person, but truly, I mean, you can make a difference in even just one other person's life. It's worth it. So I think I learned that early on, and that helped formulate that.
That is so beautiful to hear. Is Grandma still with us, by the way?
She is. She's 87, and she's probably not older than I am, and she's amazing. Yep, she's
go, Grandma.
She's a matriarch.
I can see where you get some of your strength from that. Yes, in that regard.
I do. Yeah. Okay. I do. Thank you.
Now let's talk about your current work. For those who are not familiar with it, as someone who does cancer research, you have to be living under a hole to not know about American Cancer Society. But for those who are not familiar with the ACS, can you just tell us a little bit about it, and then we can talk about your day-to-day routine at the ACS?
Absolutely. I love talking about ACS. That's a great job.
She's glowing, by the way, in case you guys you don't see the video. She's all smiles right now.
I do love ACS and the work we do. I tell a lot of folks, especially donors, right, that nobody that I work with is doing this for the paycheck. I didn't move from international finance to a nonprofit for the paycheck. Everyone that does this from a space of passion and from being impacted themselves or someone they know through cancer. So ACS is over 110 years. We're the largest nonprofit health organization in the United States. We are the number one funder of cancer research after the U.S. government, which is a lot of people don't know. We really pride ourselves on helping early investigators launch their careers. So we invest in them early to help kind of that, rolling effect of them getting larger and bigger grants as their work progresses. And with that being said, I find it fascinating and amazing that we are able to choose the best science very early on to invest in, as is evidenced by 53 of the researchers we've invested in have gone on to win the Nobel Prize. And I think that speaks volume. I know, how cool is that, right? I think that speaks volumes. But another portion of what ACS does that I think people don't know about outside the research is our patient services and our support for everybody to ensure nobody has to face their cancer journey alone. We did a study last year, and actually ACS provides more patient resources in more communities than anyone else. Be it a hospital, no matter who it is. We're in over 70% of United States zip codes and communities with free rides to treatment, free lodging, free wigs, information, support groups, you name it, we do it. And it's just amazing. And our message is that to end cancer as we know it for everyone. And that for everyone part is also really important to us at ACS to ensure that, we know cancer affects everyone, but it doesn't affect everyone equally.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're there to support in the communities that need it the most and that are impacted the hardest as well. And so that health equity really is at the root of everything that we do.
And that's so great. As someone who does work in this area, when it comes to addressing social determinants of health, I mean, cancer is horrible. I mean, there's no other way to say it. But being able to recognize that factors like access to quality healthcare, socioeconomic status, community support, even transportation, those can significantly impact cancer outcomes. And I know you guys have various initiatives, like you talked about, your patient support programs, research funding, partnering with healthcare providers. You're helping to reduce those barriers that can prevent patients from receiving those timely and effective care, which I think is, very effective in creating a more equitable cancer care landscape.
Thank you. No, thank you. I agree too. And a huge focus, especially post-pandemic, and I'll speak to this, and I'm sure you know this, was really working to drive back up those screening numbers, because we saw a massive decline during the pandemic, and then people were nervous to return to their normal providers or anything. And we saw a massive drop-off, which, as you and I both know, will lead to more late stage diagnoses, unfortunately, where outcomes aren't as good as they could have been. So that is one of our top priorities. And we work to do it in a multitude of different ways, but really getting people back to those normal screenings to prevent cancer. Because at the end of the day, that's what we'd really like to see.
Right. Avoid with that cancer, right? Or even reduce the chances of getting it. Now, so you've talked a lot about what you all do with, in partnering with healthcare providers, right? Your patient support programs on addressing those social determinants of health. You haven't talked about your lobbying, your advocacy arm. So can you talk a little bit about your ACS CAN and what that really entails?
Thank you for bringing that up. I feel ashamed, and I'm not.
No, it's okay.
No, and that is something that we do that not all nonprofits do, and we're very, very effective at it. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share about that. So, our sister arm, the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, which is a mouthful, so ACS CAN.
ACS CAN, yeah.
ACS CAN works with elected officials from the federal government to the state government to county government to city council, wherever it needs to be, to work to advocate for any issue that might impact the cancer landscape, right? Anything from tanning beds to taxation on tobacco products to ensuring federal funding for cancer research. We just had a big win last year in Oklahoma to expand biomarker access to Medicaid patients, which I won't go into all of the amazing science behind that, but they are amazing. And I would share also what they really excel at is bringing together coalitions of other like-minded nonprofits, individuals, businesses that have a stake in this and bringing, enabling that voice to go louder and louder. So the elected officials really hear it and see that this is an important issue. And if anybody's interested in getting more involved, we'll have a lobby day, which I love going to and talking with our elected officials and seeing the bills and, our system in progress. But it's phenomenal. And we're always looking for more volunteers to get engaged in the policy side as well, if there's interest.
Yeah. What I'm going to say next might rub some people the wrong way, but hey, depending on what kind of category you fall under. So the ACS CAN was actually instrumental in raising the federal tobacco tax in 2009, I think. And it's been the largest federal tobacco tax increase in history at that time. And the idea was just to reduce smoking rates, especially among youth who are particularly price sensitive. And it was a major victory, so if you're a smoker, you probably wouldn't like it.
It is a major victory, but everything we do is evidence and science-based.
Yes.
Price point and that how people will stop smoking is key. And it, like you said, it was a major victory. We did see a decline in smoking. I will say in Oklahoma in 2016, I believe as well, Oklahoma specifically, there was another tobacco tax increase that was led by ACS CAN, which was coming on as a corporate relationships person, did make it challenging sometimes in trying to work with, like gas stations, we'll say.
I know, right?
It's interesting. We found each other on other sides of the aisle, right?
Yeah.
So it is what it is. But it's very important.
I agree. I wonder what the next one will be, especially on vaping and e-cigarettes and all of that is, plaguing our youths right now. Whose use is plaguing our youths right now. So you've walked us through just your career trajectory, right? And for those who are curious, I met Miss Michelle during one of the Stephen Cancer Center's presentation, and we were introduced by Dr. Ramesh of Certec. So shout out to him for that introduction. And we took she led us on a tour of the Hope Lodge we'll be talking about in a bit. But just wanted to put that out there. So you've talked us through your childhood and the impact you had so far, and even people who've shaped your life, like your grandma and all that. How does one start from where you started from, and then ends up at ACS? Or was because you've also had some other experiences so far, like in the corporate world. What was the push for you towards the philanthropy side of things?
So, and that's a great question. I had some personal life changes as well, and just things that happened in my personal life. But I would say the crux of the issue was, I've always volunteered on the side or served on boards on the side, right? It has always been a passion of mine that was a side thing. Which, we have so many amazing volunteers. It's really the lifeblood of our organization is the volunteerism. I don't want to diminish that. But working in corporate America, especially in financial services, there's nothing wrong with helping rich people get richer. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I found it was just not that fulfilling, right? At the end of the day, I made great money. I did good at work, which was always important to me, but it didn't leave me with that sense of satisfaction at the end of the day. And we made some changes. And like I said, my son and I moved back to Oklahoma. And I was like, first of all, the international arena in Oklahoma is not nearly as large. So there was limited opportunity in that space. And then I was looking at making that type of a change. And I had actually started a consulting service after I had my son, and to work with nonprofits on their different strategies with stewardship, with donors, with outreach. And I loved that work. But I knew becoming a single mom, I needed benefits, right?
Yeah, flexibility too, yeah.
And stability. Yeah. Whereas a consultant, it fluctuates. So I really do think it was an amazing timing when I saw the role at the American Cancer Society as a corporate relations manager. And I was like, this is a beautiful way to meld together my corporate background. And something I'm very passionate about. It was actually a screening that saved me from getting cancer, and I had not too long prior to that lost my uncle, who's a priest in Oklahoma and was more like a second father to me. Had lost him to glioblastoma. So, just
sorry to hear.
Thank you. Yeah, he was a driving force around this as well. But just all those different components kind of melded together, right? The time and the, what did they say? Location. All the and it was fantastic because, I have a little son, and he was like, Mom, you're helping save people's lives. I am kind of, that's the fulfillment, while still, being able to make a living and feel really good about what I do at the end of the day. Really what drove that switch from corporate America into the nonprofit space.
And even in sharing your story, which is, beautiful, by the way, I just think about the impact of people watching. Like, I don't think your grandma did everything she did because she was trying to make you guys watch. She just saw that this was the kind of person she was. And now look at what you're also showing your son, the importance of giving back, of, using your talents as a way to make paths for people. That's so beautiful. I can imagine what his story is going to look like, 10, 20 years from now.
Fingers crossed. It's a challenge right now, but thank you.
Oh, he'll do great. How old is he?
He's 11 going on 35.
I have a 5-year-old going on 50, so maybe I can relate with you. God help us.
I asked him the other day, I was like, do you think you're smarter than I am? And he goes, well, yeah. And I said, that's why you asked me 278 questions today. No more? He goes, well, maybe some things, like video games. I said, okay, you got me on the
But whoever asks the most questions is the smartest, right? Wink, wink, coming from a podcast host. Clearly not. Thanks for sharing all of that. As someone who's done quite a lot, and you've carved just, I think what's beautiful, what I say about you, which I really love to emphasize, is using your talents and your passion to make money, create a source of income for yourself, right? It doesn't feel like work to you, right? And not everyone has that luxury, because at the end of the day, the basic line is do something to put food on the table. It might not be something fun or something you enjoy doing, but what a blessing to actually really enjoy what you do. That said, being a female breaking into this space and the longevity of it, what would you say are some of the challenges you've run into, and what kind of advice would you like to recycle to everyone, but especially women who might be in your shoes?
And thank you. I love that. And I'm really glad that you brought that up, because in a lot of ways, I think we do sugarcoat that too much sometimes, and we don't discuss that. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I have a strong personality, and I don't tend to shy away from difficult
I like that about you.
Not everybody does. I was just talking with someone the other day that it's being assertive, not aggressive. But since I'm a woman,
if it were to be a man, they wouldn't call you aggressive, would they?
Exactly, and that's
it. Wouldn't be a question. It wouldn't be an observation. He's just being a man.
Just being a man or being a leader, right? Being a leader. Whereas it has been a challenge, and I've really had to temper myself and my passion and my dedication and my work ethic and my leadership to have it not being taken as aggression, especially internally, but even externally, and also having to, well, it's a tightrope, right? While maintaining and being true to myself, but still learning. Sometimes you don't have to say the things right in the moment that you want to say them in a knee-jerk reaction, and especially when dealing with a lot of donors that I deal with. So I work in the philanthropy space as well as corporate relations. Actually, I'm more in the philanthropy space now, which is individual donors and foundations. And these are people who want to do good and who have amazing passions, and they want their money to work for good, but they also sometimes, not always, but have a lot of money and are used to getting their way or having things done a certain way, and having to learn how to navigate those conversations and those discussions is hard, and it can be a challenge. And sometimes you have to make sure that you put your personal thoughts and preferences in the backseat to the mission and figure out what is actually going to be best for your job, for the cancer patients and families you're serving, and not necessarily what your personal feelings or beliefs are. And it can be a challenge sometimes to set those two aside or to divide them in order to have the best and optimal outcomes. And I mean, as a woman, it's been, I think, even more challenging. And sometimes it takes a while for people to look beyond that fact and understand I do have an intellect, I do have value, and I'm smart and I'm worth having this conversation with. I'm not just going to say, give me $50,000, la, 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 ha, ha. Not that anybody does that, but it's a challenge that I think sometimes men don't have to even give a second. That we do. And it's, it can be, like I said, it can be a tightrope walking that and and maintaining truth to yourself, but also ensuring best and optimum outcomes for the mission. Especially if you have very strong beliefs that that can be hard. And then even outside of nonprofits, I worked in international finance, which is very much a masculine and male dominated space. I've honestly navigated some of those spaces, I think, better than a lot of women because I have such a strong personality.
Right.
We got over that initial hurdle of, you can respect Michelle or whatnot. Then the dialogue changed. And for the most part, I did well with that. And honestly, I feel like those conversations in that space was easier for me to navigate in some ways than in the very, very female dominated nonprofit world. That was really one of my concerns, Dr. Mo, when I started was, can I work with all women? At that time we had one man. Other than that, it was all women in my office. And I was like, ooh, that's
switching the switch. Yeah. It's a different kind of, gloves you have to
it is
work with.
It's different. And it's not to say one is better or worse.
No, it's just different. Different isn't always bad. It's just different.
I think different is great. I mean, how boring would life be if we're all the same? I have a little saying that I said variety is the spice of life, and I like it spicy.
Right? Especially with the background you talked about, your family being very colorful and
yes. Oh yeah, we like all the things spicy, but that's some of the challenges. And as I've gotten older, just learning, like, your opinion or your voice doesn't always have to be heard, even if you want it to be heard. There's a time and a place. And learning when those times and places are, at least for me, was hard, was a big challenge. And I think I've finally, somewhere in my 40s, we'll just say, maybe I'm able to navigate that a little more fluidly than back when I was in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah. And I think, thank you for sharing that, by the way. I really, really appreciate the vulnerability infused in that response. But what I'm really hearing from you is, for a lot of women like us, especially those who get to do things, there's a personality trait that comes with being able to get things done, which might not necessarily fit the feminine mold. And it's creating the path for herself and reminding ourselves that our voice matters. Not all the time that we have to air our voices, but we're just enough. We're not too much. We're not being aggressive. We're just who we are. And I think in spaces where competence is supposed to be shown, those traits can come in handy. But at face value, they might just look at you, just another woman, just talking, just a broad talking. But it's just keep going. Don't let those narratives drown out your strengths. That's what I'm hearing from what you're saying. And adding that to even looking at your career trajectory, how you started and where you are right now, and I can imagine the future still holds a lot of possibilities for you, is to keep going and keep advocating for yourself. You talked about the stability of what you needed, and also the flexibility. And those are two things that I feel like as women, sometimes we want to prioritize one over the other. But you can have them both. What kind of life do you want for yourself? Create that path. Like if a job doesn't exist, maybe just wherever you are right now, maybe it's not the right place for you.
Yes.
Seek, get out of your comfort zone and seek what you want, like stability and flexibility, and then make life happen for you. So that's what I just heard from everything you said. And I wanted to say thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you for wrapping it up in such a pretty package and nice bow. It sounded so much better when you said it. Yes.
No, you said it better. I just summarized your words.
You did, and you did it beautifully. Yes. And just keep going and don't let anything deter you, and it will manifest. It does.
Yes.
It might not be in the time that you think it should be. Almost never is it in the time frame that you think it should be.
Yeah.
But it works out. It does.
I have the sense in just talking to you, even though it wasn't part of my questions, that being a mom has kind of helped you become more grounded, right? And almost redefined your purpose for you and giving you like a reason that like, this is what I want to keep doing and this is how I'm going to keep doing it. Would that be a fair assessment to make of you?
So funnily enough, I never wanted to be a mom.
Ooh.
Growing up. So I don't know if it's because I was the oldest of five and I already felt like I almost had been a mom already, right?
You've done it all.
And my youngest sister is 13 years younger than me, so there's a big spread.
Oh, wow,
so
that's really a generational gap.
Yeah, almost, right? So I really was kind of mini mom. And then I was always very career driven. And then, the universe was like, well, that's fine. You're going to still be a mom, right? Because that's just how it works.
Right.
And it has changed me in many ways that I didn't ever realize or think that it would, and taught me how to look at things from a different perspective and really reassess priorities, right? Really reassess the priorities at the end of the day. And it has shifted things. And, it's a challenge, especially as a single mom, to balance that, like you said, balance the flexibility with the priorities, with everything. Yes. Yeah. And I will share, that is one of, other than my passion for the mission, but ACS does an amazing job with allowing us to be flexible and being family first. As long as, and I love this, actually treating adults like they're adults, to where if they're meeting their goals and they're doing what they're supposed to do, doesn't matter if it's 9 a.m. or 9 p.m.
Just get it done.
If I need to leave for a couple hours for a parent-teacher conference or to go watch my son, play in his band recital or whatever during work, which I don't know why they do it during work, but whatever. The ACS has been phenomenal as, about treating people like, well, you prove your results and you get, you hit your goals. Why would we not? Right?
That's great.
It is.
More places should start adopting that policy, like, being counting time. How many hours were you there today? Let's make it more on productivity and, meeting goals. Yeah.
Yes. Let's count productivity and what you actually did.
Yes.
How much time it took you to do that. Mm-hmm, because our standard work week is 37.5 hours.
You probably do more.
There's very, very few weeks that I'm actually working 37.5 hours. Yeah. And folks in other departments that do events and whatnot, right? There's a lot of evenings and weekends. So but it's great. ACS has been phenomenal about being flexible. And I've even been recruited for a few other roles, but I would have had to have been back in an office, 9 to 5 or whatever. No work from home flexibility, no leaving to support my kid flexibility, and I was like, that's not worth it right now to me. Maybe later when he's grown, but right now, this is right.
Yeah. Thanks for speaking to that, right? I feel like for a lot of moms, we struggle with the adaptations we have to make. Like before, we had our daughter through adoption, so it was more of a conscious decision towards parenting rather than just which there's nothing wrong with, whatever way, however you get your child. But all that to say, life just, even though I said that to say, even though we did that consciously, it took a while for my brain to adjust to time as a construct being different right now. Like life before baby, and then life after baby. Because my goodness, my time just had to like go into like getting her ready and all of that. And I'm like, before I could just, up and go. I wanted to take a quick, vacation. I could do that. Now I'm thinking about pickup times, drop off times, extracurricular activities. And I'm still trying to excel at work. And it's like, who am I? Like, it's such a different concept. But I'm at peace more, and I always tell new moms like, hey, time is gonna change. You have to mourn who you used to be. Your time is gonna point to something different, but it's a beautiful thing because you're pouring into a life who's gonna grow and then hopefully make other lives. It's never time wasted, with that child. But I can't have like 4 hours uninterrupted writing time anymore. I don't have that luxury. So whatever 30 minutes block I have, you better use it because that's golden hour right there. And then my productivity peaks higher, and I'm able to like get things done quickly. Because the amount of time before she barges into my office, hi mom, you want to come play with me? And let's go play. So.
Oh yes, I know, absolutely you do. But like, and I love that you said that, right? You have to readapt and reteach yourself to where I might only get a 30-minute window here. It's not 4 hours unless I start at like 11 o'clock at night, maybe when they're asleep, which don't get me wrong, I do that sometimes too, right? Because that is uninterrupted time. And now that he's older, I think you said yours is 5, but now that he's older, right? We do have this system. Like yesterday, he was home for Veterans Day, but I wasn't off of work. And so there's a system where I have like sticky notes on my door. If my door is closed, there's a sticky note. I'm on a meeting. He knows not to come in, right? But other things.
Try that with a 5-year-old. They know no boundaries.
Oh, no, I know. He actually embarrassed the heck out of me during the pandemic. We were doing massive layoffs during the pandemic, and all of us just getting used to all the digital Zoom and everything, and I'm looking at everybody on the screen, and they just start laughing. And we had just heard about 40% layoffs at ACS, and I'm like, why is everybody laughing? So I looked down at the corner, right where he's in my guest bed behind me. He was supposed to be asleep, and he's up there, shaking his little Batman underwear booty. Like right behind me.
Tell me you have a video recording of that. You have to play that, at his 21st birthday or somewhere.
Oh my gosh, that would be priceless, wouldn't it? And so I turned off my camera, right? I was like, I am so sorry. And my then boss was like, that was perfect, actually. We needed that levity. That laugh, moment. And now I can laugh about it. But in the moment,
then it was just like, oh my goodness.
Yes, it was horrible. I got some bloody hair on underwear.
Thank God he was wearing underwear. Could have been a totally different story.
Yes, a totally different thing. But again, like having a workplace where people are like, understanding of that. Now, if it had been an external meeting with the donor, I don't know how that would have gone over. But having a workplace where they understand, especially the adjustment during the pandemic to all of us, to life, working at home and balancing out that time with the little ones, they were constantly on you, So it's been a journey.
Thanks for sharing that. That really cackled me up a little bit. I have so many questions for you, and we're running out of time. Okay. Let's do this real quick. Let's talk about some of the most memorable moments you've had from your career that would really speak to the impact you say you've been wanting to have on patient care when it comes to your work at ACS.
I mean, at this point, the crowning jewel of my career at ACS would be the Hope Lodge.
Hope Lodge, yeah.
Yes, because it is just such a vibrant community and a very tactile and tangible way to show that patient care support, right? Probably the most, I came in about halfway through the fundraising campaign as when I came on as the philanthropy director at that time, and I inherited it. And boy, howdy, that was a challenge. And I've never done a capital campaign before, so that was a little new. But they knew I could do it, so I knew I could do it. It was great. So got busy. We had amazing leadership volunteers on our campaign cabinet or campaign committee, whatever we call this, and truly they drove forward everything. Just the amazing community members that they were, and. Actually, it was because of some internal relationships that I had. We were getting to the end of our pipeline, right? We had asked, and we were up in Tulsa, and they're like, no, that's an Oklahoma City project. I'm like, no, it's actually going to serve more people in Tulsa than Oklahoma City. Anyways, all the things. We had asked nationally. We asked, philanthropists, foundations, corporate sponsors, tribal nations. I mean, you name it, right? And we had kind of gotten to the end of that pipeline and we had $5 million left to close it out. Because of internal relationships and an amazing team, they introduced us to Jeff York, who used to be the chief strategy officer, I believe, for Paycom, which is based here in Oklahoma. That's a cloud payroll services. They're phenomenal. And he introduced us to the Paycom founder, Chad Richison, founder and CEO. And we had many discussions internally and with Jeff, and then finally got to have a meeting with Chad, which is very hard to get. He's a very
right. I can imagine. I wonder why.
And he came into the meeting because of all the things going on in the universe. I ended up being the only representative from ACS that was there in person, and a whole big table full of Paycom people. And Chad came in and did our pitch and shared with him what our vision was for Hope Lodge, what it would do. Shared the need of how many people are traveling to Oklahoma City. Over 4,000 people from across the state are traveling into Oklahoma City to get their medical treatments. And that we know from our data, the top two barriers to those care is
transportation and
lodging, right?
Accommodation, Yeah,
which people don't know that, but that's why we invest so much time and money into it. And so this is right at the
and it's also data. You guys use the research data to from those interventions, by the way. We should mention that. It's always data driven.
It is always
not a hunch.
No, it is. I mean, science, and data, 100%. And we went back and forth a few times, but right at the beginning of the pandemic, he came back and said that he would love to make that $5 million capstone gift to close out that campaign to get us moving forward. And thank goodness he did, because who knows what would have happened if it had been, 2021 or like the end of 2020, right? So the timing was amazing. And I mean, it was just glorious because we've already served over 13,000 free nights of lodging. I've met so many people at that Hope Lodge, as I think you met a couple as well, who
yes,
how it saved their lives.
Ronnie, wonderful people, And
it's just, and the people that we're helping, I mean, there's no income barrier or level or anything, but we knew statistically the people who needed the help most, right, are the people that are coming from rural Oklahoma, mainly. And the tribal nations, mainly, where they don't have cancer treatment centers there locally, or if they do, they don't have specialists, or they don't have this clinical trial, or whatever it may be. I mean, I can't tell you how many people that I've seen that we've helped, people from all over the country as well. So being able to have those relationships in place to secure that kind of funding, to have something to come to fruition, really is a moment, and not even a moment, but a journey to the that I'm very, very proud of for myself and our ACS team, and for all the people we've been able.
What was his name? Was it Jeff? Whoever introduced it to Chad, was it Jeff?
Jeff York.
Jeff York. I mean, I just want to say, even though you didn't mention this, but as someone just looking into the story, it's one thing for you to be introduced to somebody else. It's another thing for you to be able to make meaningfulness out of that meeting, to get something out of it. So kudos to you for sealing the deal and using all of your magic to get what you want. So we can talk about connections being made, but you sealing the deal and presenting a strong case for why that was needed, and using all of your data and your expertise and skills, that contributed to the success of that as well. So kudos to you.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. And sometimes it feels like it has to be magic, because I'm not sure, in the moment I was like, what did I even just say? I don't know. I hope it was good.
Not everyone can do it. I hope you know that. Not everyone is, we're all, I feel like we all have different talents in different areas, right? And this is where you particularly stand out, and you're able to see, and it might come very effortless to you, but I'll let you know, not everyone can do it then, and
Well, thank you. Maybe I hope it comes across as effortless, but it's not, and you're absolutely right. We all have very different skill sets, and I was just talking with my colleague. They had the Tulsa Calabarons Ball on Saturday, and I was like, I would much rather go ask somebody for $1 million than throw a gala event, like
right.
But she was like, I would never want to do so. It's we come together, use those different skills. I'm one of those weird people. I enjoy public speaking. Apparently, more people would rather die.
They'd rather die, right? I'm a Toastmasters. I'm distinguished Toastmasters, and I love public speaking. But I know that there's some people that would just rather cave under, than just to go out and even say something. How much more ask for money. It's like, are you kidding me? So yeah, I just want to let you know that there's a whole world of people out there who do great things but not public speaking, right?
Yes. Amen.
I think there's also something to say about projects like like the Hope Lodge that I talked about. So I work my workplace is not so far from where the current chat Richison building is, and it almost like it popped up overnight. And the way it felt overnight was because it was during the pandemic when it was a parking lot before. But I believe strongly that it plays a transformative role in cancer care. Like you said, not only offering free lodging to patients and caregivers who need to travel for treatment, but even the network of facilities that eases the significant financial and emotional burden that often accompanies a cancer diagnosis. And I've taught that lodge, it feels like a home away from home. Now, we know cancer is horrible, but knowing that you have access to a kitchen and some snacks in the pantry, healthy food, sometimes they have chef come and curate like meals for them, and just supportive community where patients and caregivers can connect with others facing similar experiences. I think that's really, really big. And even though you guys just celebrated your 1 year anniversary, I remember in August, how many stays have they had since you guys opened in August of last year? How many stays have you had?
First of all, if you ever want another job, you just made an amazing pitch for the Hope Lodge, and
you guys gave us a great tour. It's so, indelible in my mind. I can't forget it.
It truly is amazing, and thank you for saying that. So, since opening last August, we've already provided 17,867 free nights of lodging.
That's like a hotel.
And
more.
During our anniversary, when KOCO, I think it was, that covered it, said, can you picture a hotel that is booked solid through the end of the night, because we're on a wait list every single day through the end of the year. We're on a wait list, which is bad and good, right? It expresses the need, but it's horrible that so many people need it. The average stay is about 13 nights, but we've had folks, especially like bone marrow implant patients, right, where they have to stay for months and months. Yeah. They go home on the weekends, but they have to stay for months. They celebrate Thanksgiving with us. They celebrate Christmas with us, with the other guests. They share their stories, but you're right. It speaks really to not only the financial burden and the convenience of being right by your cancer treatment facility, but also that emotional and the stress that goes along with it. Just having a whole nother group of people that are caregivers for you and there to walk you through your journey. And especially even for the caregivers, which we don't always think about how hard it is as a caregiver, right? You're grieving and going through all of this as well. You're exhausted as well. So there's an amazing community of caregivers that, they stay connected throughout the years as well. And it's amazing to watch. It all happens so organically and so beautifully.
What a story! What an impact, right? And I remember during the tour, you had shown us a map of locations. Someone came from all the way from Africa. You had a guest coming all the way from New Zealand, if I remember, maybe Australia, one of those countries. Yeah. And another thing I would like to highlight, which I don't want to get lost in the conversation, is the human-centered architecture. The way it was thoughtfully built. Even talking about it, I'm getting good pimples, right? Like each room is crafted with, and I say this carefully because cancer can be quite, debilitating. But the impact what they're trying to recreate is a place where you don't have to even stress about not being at home, because we know home is always the best, right? So for instance, the in-room TV offers like local options where you can, where's the next place to get food, and even the air quality. What's that thing about the recycling, the air filters, and what kind of air, and even the rounded corners of the TV stands and the beds. It was just like, wow, every detail was planned out, and that is so beautiful. That's what you guys made happen.
Thank you so much for saying that. And I geek out on that. I'm sure you remember on the tour, that was something that I always share, is that, it's more than a hotel. Obviously, it's a free place to stay. And then the community part, but being the American Cancer Society and having this expertise of the last 110 years, and being, I think we're the 32nd lodge in the Hope Lodge communities across the country, like, we are the experts here. We know that they need the rounded corners because of the dizziness, so they don't
Fall
hit
off. Yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
Everything in that building is a oh gosh, I forgot the terminology just now. It's a certification level.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a clean building, but it's something like that, right? Where
Grain something. I think I remember. Yeah.
yeah, and I've just forgot it.
It will come to us.
Right. There's absolutely nothing in there that can be carcinogenic. There's not anything in there. I mean, this the cleanest air you're going to breathe outside of maybe some hospitals or whatnot, but it smells much better. I mean, every single building component was thought about, which is why one of the reasons why it was more expensive is because we do all of those things, every little detail, right? And
is it Well Building Institute? Is that the one? Yeah. Well, yeah. Well Building.
Yep,
Yeah.
Well Building.
Well certification. Yeah.
So we do think about every single little different piece that goes into it. And so thank you for recognizing that, because people don't think about it, but it's all those little details that go into it that really create that
really matters.
whole experience. And
And for me, I'm a visual learner, so going on the tour and hearing the story and seeing everything kind of like, it's going to stay in my head for the longest time. So what lesson would you say, looking back now, what would you say are some of the lessons you learned, especially what you'd potentially carry into the future, capital campaigns or large fundraising initiatives?
I have several. Never quit. Never quit, even when it looks like there's nothing left. There is always something left. And along those lines, leave no stone unturned. Chad, of course, being, one of the wealthier folks, Chad Richison being one of the wealthier folks in Oklahoma, he was early on, he was on our list. And there were some things and it didn't happen. It didn't work, right? I'm actually glad that it didn't, because the timing was perfect when it came back around. So never quit. Leave no stone unturned. Revisit conversations. With that being said, is it a no or is it a not right now? I've had several donors where the timing just wasn't right. And I said, well, can I come back and can we have this conversation again? And you tell me maybe 6 months, right? Maybe 9 months, maybe a month, maybe whatever it is. It might just not be the right time. So don't think it's necessarily you or your ask. Think about them, right? Why it might not be a good time for them, and ask those questions. Ask the hard questions. Leverage those relationships that you have, especially with your volunteers. Be bold. People are doing philanthropy for a reason. Corporations are doing it for a reason. More and more people are demanding the corporate social responsibility, CSR, but also people in philanthropy and foundations, they want to have an impact. That's what they're there for. So don't think that you're doing them a favor. You're not. You're liaising their passion with the good in the community, and you're kind of that liaison for them. So be bold. And then something that I, again, really regret teaching my 11-year-old son.
What was that?
On me, is that if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
So I was like, no, honey, you're supposed to use that like in everybody else's life. The answer's still going to be no. Sorry. But really, I mean, asking in and of itself is an art form and can be challenging and it can be hard. But always ask. I had a friend, we did undergrad at OU together, and she's like, you always just ask and you end up getting, like, even just when we go out for drinks or dinner or whatever, and you always get something for free or da-da-da. I was like, I don't know. It's just, it's because you ask, right? Yeah. So those would be my lessons that I learned and try to apply every day, especially when it can be really challenging.
Those are really beautiful words to recycle, and thanks for sharing that. So I know the way during the tour, one of the questions I was asked was, are you going to build another one? Are you going to build another one? And there's a way you all beautifully explained it. Maybe you should try telling the audience as well the challenges that comes with being able to replicate lodges across the country. And you also talked about, like, was it the West Coast or the East Coast? I think it was the West Coast, yes, where you needed to also expand, and that might be another priority. Maybe just tell us a little bit about some of the peculiarities of replicating Hope Lodges across zones like ours.
Yes, and thank you for that. So really, it's not even necessarily the capital campaign. That's the first hurdle, right? But priority number one is assessing the need in the communities, and then getting donated land is huge.
Yeah.
And then not only do we have volunteers.
And I imagine lands closer to those treatment centers, right? Because you don't want them too far away, because it's going to create another bubble of, barriers.
Yes, and we take them to every cancer treatment center. Yes, but donated land was huge. And then do we have the resources and the network and the volunteers in that community to have that capital campaign and have that be successful? But then, Dr. Mo, honestly, capital campaigns are exciting. People like putting their names on buildings and whatnot. The hard part is keeping the doors open and the lights on, or what we call operational costs. We've saved Oklahomans over $4 million just in lodging costs alone. That doesn't include like all the free food and all the other free rides or anything like that. We've saved them in a year over $4 million. The cost benefit to the hospital systems is over, I've got to give a rough number because I haven't made this public yet, but it is over 25 million cost benefit to the hospital systems on treatments that otherwise these patients may not have made it to because they didn't have anywhere to stay. But we have to raise just under $1 million every year in operational funds to keep the building lit,
going, the lights and everything, and the well certification, because that's not cheap,
right? All of the things. So our job continues every day, every year to raise that funding. And we have to be sure that we don't build a building where in 5 years we're not going to be able to, keep the lights on.
Wow.
That's a challenge. So if anybody, we're always looking for volunteer groups. We're always looking for folks that want to help support that. Welcome to share my information with them, or they can also go to, I think it's cancer.org/Hope Lodge, Oklahoma City, I believe, to learn more
about that.
On how they can support or volunteer or donate things to the pantry. Or we have some guest suites that can still be named at a certain recognition level. So there's a way to help.
Right. And I think the beauty about, thanks for sharing that, by the way. I was gonna that was gonna be one of my next questions, how people can volunteer. And I think you can take any level of volunteers. Okay, you can come read books, play the piano, cook a meal, chat with people, whatever hours you have, just come help out. No help is gonna be turned away. And I think the beauty about jobs like yours is the excitement, but also the work it takes to do your job. It's like no 2 days are the same, right? Which is beautiful. And I love that. It's why I love my job as well, because I don't like the 9 to 5, go to work, that's not my personality type. It might work for most people, but for me, no. And I just wanted to highlight that because I noticed that. Now, as we round off, I had 2 questions for you. Looking forward, what trends or changes do you really see happening in corporate philanthropy and donor engagement within healthcare nonprofits?
So great question. The massive thing that we're seeing right now is a generational shift, and the generational shift of wealth. So we're going from donors who are, the silent, not even really the silent generation anymore, but, the baby boomers who most of them would just write their check at the end of the year and be like, here, go do good. Now we're dealing with much more sophisticated donors. They're giving through donor advised funds. They're giving through security stocks. They're giving through qualified charitable distributions. And they also want to have more engagement with the nonprofit, maybe volunteer with it, and they want to see the impact and be a part of it. And that is different than it used to be. So that's an interesting space to navigate those changes, not to mention AI and the digital.
I know, the digital currency, yes. Yeah,
cryptocurrency, which we do accept also.
Great. Well, that's interesting to know. People want to get more involved. That's good. That's good to know. Thank you so much. Lastly, we do this thing on the podcast where we have people who come to leave questions for the next guest, and they don't know who the guest is. And, so the question for you, which was left by a couple that I interviewed, my bosses actually, Doctors Kenzo and Bissonel, they'd like for me to ask you, next year, Michelle, what would you like to be doing differently than what you're doing today?
Next year, I think the only thing that I would like to be doing differently than I am currently doing is going back to being a people manager instead of an individual contributor. I've always loved being a teacher and sharing and imparting knowledge on others. And I do that through mentoring other folks, but I think I would like it to be more formalized and to have a team that I can share some of my skills with and help grow them as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. Like, the wealth of wisdom you come with, your ease of just talking about your passion and the work you do, which I think, it takes a lot to survive in the kind of work you do, because it's like, it's not just you trying to make margin, but also being able to forge relationships and sustain those relationships, right? Hearing about just, your childhood and the people who have, poured into you, your grandma, your siblings, your parents, your son as well, and your passion for what you do and providing access to people, of bringing hope, back in making philanthropy great again. This has really been so great. And even your life, your story of resilience, relationship building, your unyielding commitment. And I think your story really underscores, just your life mission as well. And I think ACS they're so lucky to have, just your vibe and your energy. And so to our listeners, we hope you found this conversation as inspiring and as I did. And I just want to say thank you so much, Michelle, for creating time today in your busy schedule to chat with me. It means a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Moen. Thank you for that so much. And thank you for the thoughtfulness of your questions and actually the engagement, right, and the conversational component, and leading us down a path to be able to share knowledge and to be able to share that. And I just appreciate the opportunity and what you're doing to elevate voices as well. It's extremely important.
Yeah. Oklahoma is a great state, and you are one of the people that adds to the beauty. And to bring you on the podcast and just, share that's definitely going to make my day today. And so thank you. I think we're just going to keep doing thank yous back and forth.
I'm going to carry you in my pocket too.
I hope you enjoy your holiday, and I'll be in touch.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Go charge your phone. All right. Bye-bye.
Yes, I charge my computer.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, that was the episode, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with friends and colleagues who care about making a difference in health and community service. We'll be back soon with more episodes featuring leaders, innovators, advocates, change agents, making waves in Oklahoma and beyond. In any event, this has been your host, Dr. Mo. Bye for now.